Hello, YouTube world. My name is Donnie. It's actually Sadani. And I don't know if you have seen my other videos. Um, the videos were pertaining to the charity that I started, the Quality of Life Fund. And it's a charity to help those who are in need during their fight against autoimmune diseases, disability caused by specifically autoimmune diseases like MS, lupus, Lyme, fibro. Excuse me. Sorry, that's my alarm telling me that it's time to take my medicine because I'm an MS patient. So it is that time. I gotta take my Ampura, and that is also known as the walking pill. I made the other videos to tell you about the fun, but what I neglected to do was tell you my story, to tell you about me, because I know people are probably wondering, who is this girl on YouTube talking about, hey, donate money for people with autoimmune diseases, and they don't know my story. Well, here it is. I am 34. I have two children, a 5-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and I lived a very active life throughout high school, college, and everything seemed to be going fine until I would say around 2007. And my significant other and I would, have casual conversation, and he would notice the left side of my face would completely drop, and it was a little alarming to him. Of course, I didn't understand or realize that it was happening even, and my words would slur. It would last about maybe 5 seconds, if that long, and I would snap right out of it. So it was nothing to me, so I would brush it off. That was back then. Then life continued. I didn't see anything wrong. I was still wearing heels, still driving, still doing everyday things. And 2010, I gave birth to my son. Everything seemed normal and healthy with my pregnancy. He was a big boy, 10.5 pounds, but everything was fine. I believe about um, 16 months later, I had my daughter. They're pretty close in age. And it was when she was about, I believe, 4 or 5 months. We went to Atlantic City, and I had gone outside for something. And when I got back, well, actually, on my way back to the hotel room, I just fell. I was walking and I just fell. And thinking that, just clumsy Donnie, I just fell. It's nothing. So I let it go. It kept going. Maybe about 2 months later, I started to, when I would walk, I felt really, really tired, really quick, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe I was just overexerted or something, and I would start to feel like, the best description would be, I would feel like somebody had tied sandbags to my legs, and I was trying to walk and pull the sandbags. And I didn't think anything of it. Once again, just thinking that maybe I needed to exercise. I know I needed to lose weight, so I'm thinking it could be that as well. And I didn't think, I needed to pay any attention to it. Maybe a month or two later, it went away. It wasn't happening anymore. And I went for about 3 to 4 months with nothing happening. And I went to the doctor for my regular checkup, my OBGYN for my regular checkup, and I discovered at that point that I was, I had just had a miscarriage. I didn't even know that I was pregnant again, but I was, and I had a miscarriage. And I also recently learned that when you are pregnant, MS goes into remission. It's something in a pregnant woman's body that sends MS packing. So during that time, everything was fine again. I was walking fine again because I didn't know that I was pregnant, of course. So during that time, I still didn't know that I had MS. When the symptoms returned again, like the walking, and this time they kind of came back with a vengeance. I was wobbling, I was off balance, I was having trouble seeing. Sometimes I would wake up and I would see little sparkles in my eyes, like little stars. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I have to go to a doctor. I went to my general practitioner, and he was unsure of what it could be. He was unsure about why I was walking the way that I was, and it started to get to a point where I was falling more often. Like I would just stand up and start walking, and within 2 seconds, I would just drop. And that's very, very alarming. Um, it is something that taught me listen to your body, and that's something that I didn't do. I didn't listen to my body. And after I went to my general practitioner, he decided, I don't understand this, so you're going to need to see a specialist. You're going to need to have an MRI, of your neck and your brain, and just see if there's something. Because the walking, for some reason, he felt like it was coming from my neck. So I never had an accident where my neck was affected. I had an accident before, like years and years before, but my neck wasn't affected, so it was a little inexplicable. Um, I got those MRIs done. I got a bunch of blood work done. I mean, I was poked and prodded a lot. Um, I it's so bad now at the point where I know the sounds of the MRI machines when they put the headphones on you and they put you in the machine, and I know the ping 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 and the shaking. I know the sounds. It's like clockwork. It's second nature for me now. I've been in so many MRI machines. I got those MRIs done. I was referred to a neurologist, a friend of his. I went to this neurologist, and it was like the worst experience I ever had in my life because the office was about 2 long flights up, and here I am wobbling and could barely walk, and it wasn't even like, someone could help me up the stairs because the stairwell was so narrow, and his office was old and dilapidated and dirty, and I was scared. And I went inside, and this doctor was sitting down on his computer after the 2 hours that I waited to actually see him. He's sitting down on his computer. He's on Facebook on one screen, and he's on Google Chrome on the other screen. So when I'm telling him, the things that I'm experiencing, he's typing them in, and he's giving me answers from the computer. And I'm like, thank you, WebMD. I could have done this at home. And he was at one point he started eating a Domino's pizza and was getting it all over his shirt. He was just a mess. He was all disheveled. It was a mess. The whole experience was a mess. Still, I walk out, no answers. Um, I went back to my doctor and I said, "Do you know someone else, or should I go and look for someone else myself?" And he said, "Oh yeah, well I have another friend. I'm sorry about that. I have another friend, and he's more experienced, and you should try him." Okay, so I got an appointment with him finally, and a very nice office and very nice man. And he told me that I was a medical mystery because he never saw anyone walking the way that I did and wobbling the way that I did. And the only thing that he could think of was maybe it was degenerating nerves. And he did an EMG on me. That's the nerve test. He had a Doppler of my legs done. He had more MRIs done, the neck, the spine, the head, everything. And this time, I guess he had done some research when I went back with the results, and he saw and he told me that I had some gray matter on my brain. And the first thing I'm thinking, like, okay, what does that mean? Is my brain deteriorating or something? And of course, he tells me, I'm not sure what this is, but we're gonna try and see if maybe this is MS. See what happens. I'm like, okay, if it's MS, then what do we do? Like, what treatment is there? And he scheduled me for another appointment with a month a month later. It was like so hard getting an appointment. And in the meantime, I got like fed up. I went back to my doctor because I went back to this neurologist 2 more times and a month in between. And each time I am, you know, deteriorating in between. I'm getting weaker, and I told him I gotta do something else. I have to find someone on my own. So then he referred me to a hospital. It's a neurology department in a hospital in Newark, New Jersey, and they were they were students. I mean, they had the neurologists and they had the students also. So I went there. They were very factory like, very cold, bedside manner wise. The second time that I went, I talked to the student, or the resident, I'm sorry, and she started typing in my symptoms, which I told you the prior month when I was here, but we're not gonna go into that. But I told her, and then she went out and she got the doctor, the doctor, another doctor, and I believe a nurse came back in the room, with my, significant other, and the doctor just says to me, there are 3 MS drugs, and they're called the ABC drugs, and Avonex, I forget what the B stands for, Betaseron or something like that, and Copaxone. And they're all by injection. Each one of them give you flu-like symptoms, at least, and you have to inject yourself every other day. Another one is every day, but either way, you're going to have flu-like symptoms. And I mean, it was just very, very cold. And I mean, the way she was talking to me, like I was going to die. Like, I might as well had picked out my casket and my plot. The way she was talking. And I said to her, I stopped her and I said to her, are you saying that I have MS? Because nobody at that point had diagnosed me with MS or anything indefinitely. Even my blood test showed that I tested positive for Lyme. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Are you saying that I have MS? And she goes, oh, yeah, you do. And these are 3 drugs. You can pick one and come back in a month and you can tell me which one you picked. And then she just walked out of the room, and the whole team went out of the room with her and just left us sitting there like 2 degenerates. And I mean, I cried like a baby. I mean, I started reading up on MS when the second neurologist told me that it may be that. I started reading up on it, and it's, the first thing I'm thinking, it's a disease, so it's only going to get worse, and, there's no cure for it, so I'm getting scared. And when she said, yeah, you have it, being that I had to ask her, I was scared to death. So I left there in tears, and I then decided, that was at the end of the summer, I believe in 2012, I want to say. And then around Thanksgiving, I didn't go back for the next appointment. I then decided to go to Thanksgiving. My kids went to their grandmother's, and I decided I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to the ER. Somebody's going to give me some answers. They're going to tell me definitely this is what it is, and this is what I need to do. And, somebody's got to do something. Even if they have to admit me until they figure it out, whatever, I'll do it. And I went, and the doctor that was at the ER, she said, I believe that it is MS. According to my records, because I took my records with me, according to your records, no one has um, indefinitely, diagnosed you with MS. Even if that one said it at the other hospital, they didn't say it is MS. Nobody has, said that. Now, this is going on over a year now, and all of this time, my body's getting weaker. I'm just like getting worse. I'm falling more. I had to ask my doctor, my general practitioner, for a walker. I had to ask, could you give me a prescription so I can get a walker? Because that's the only thing I can think of. Nobody said, hey, you should use a walker or arm crutches or cane or anything. I said, I think a walker would be the best thing for me, and I had to ask for it. And he's like, oh, sure. He writes the prescription, and at this point, I got myself a walker. When I went to the hospital, the doctor said, you know what, give me a second. We have a nurse here. She has MS, and I think that you should talk to her. And I think that you should also contact the head of neurology here at this hospital and go to his office. That would be a good idea for you. And I was getting myself together, and the nurse came in, and she was like the most beautiful girl ever. She was so sweet. She told me about her symptoms, and I'm looking at her. It's like she didn't seem to have any problems walking. She didn't look like anything was wrong with her. And she basically sat and she told me her story, and she told me about the doctor told me that I should see. She said that it was a good idea to see him. And when I left there, I called this doctor, and by the way, the nurse gave me her home number and her cell phone number. She's like, give me a call anytime you need to talk. And I said, okay. And she's really sweet. Her name is Jody. Um, I left there and I called this doctor, and they didn't accept my insurance. So automatically I'm like, you know what? It's going to be too expensive. I can't go to him. I'll just have to go somewhere else. I'll do something else. And I didn't. And I just let it go for months and months and months after that. I believe about maybe 6 or 7 months after that. I just didn't do anything. I kept taking the prednisone, the steroids that the original neurologist had given me, the one that sent me for the MRIs the first time. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just gonna take these steroids. They do enough justice. They keep me going every day, so I'm fine. And then later that year, in 2013, something just told me to reach out to that nurse again. And I'm like, she won't remember who I am. Like, who are you? Why are you texting me, or why are you calling me? And I reached out to her, and she responded, I think, like right away. And she's like, I remember you. How are you doing? And she said, call me. And I called her, and we talked. And we talked and we talked. I think we had to talk for maybe about 4 hours. My phone had died. I had to charge it again. We talked about everything from MS, the cold bedside manner of that other hospital in Newark. We talked about TV. We found out we had a lot of things in common. And I told her that, I was going to go to the neurologist that she told me about, but I didn't take my coverage. And she said, give him a call again, and see if maybe his policies have changed. And before I could do that, my significant other said to me, and I'll never forget, he said, find out how much he costs for an initial visit or consultation, so to speak. And we're just going to pay for it. If he's that good and everybody's referring him, we're going to go. We're going to spend the money, and we're going to go. And I believe he was about $350 just for a consultation or something like that. And he's like, whatever. I know we have other things to do, but we're going. Forget the first appointment that you can. I'm like, are you sure? And I did. And after having that conversation with Nurse Jody, and him being so supportive and just saying, we've got to get you better because this is going on too long, and we're putting everything aside, I think that was a bit of medicine for me as well. However, 2 days after my birthday in November, um, I went to the appointment. My birthday's on the 23rd. I went to see him on the 25th. And within about 20 minutes, he gave me a definite diagnosis. He decided to put me on the strongest MS medication there is, Tysabri, and it's a monthly infusion. It has a risk of a brain infection called PML, but he felt like I was a good candidate for it because no one gets a PML typically within the first 2 years of taking it. So he said, we're going to try for a year and see what happens. And he also looked at the positive Lyme titer on my blood work, and he told me, before we even start the Tysabri, I'm going to send you to my friend who is an infectious disease doctor, and let him take care of the Lyme and let him rule out whether you have Lyme disease or if this is MS. If you don't have Lyme disease, we're going to go with MS and we're going to start the infusions. Within a week, I got an appointment with his friend, and he did an EKG. He gave me really strong what do you call it? Antibiotics. Really strong antibiotic, doxycycline, I believe it's called. And I actually started feeling better as far as walking and everything else with the doxycycline. And once I took that, he's like, okay, he tested me again. He's like, there's no more Lyme there. So you're going to have to go back to my friend and we're going to go with MS. They got on the phone together and they said, okay, it's MS. So I went back to him. He got me started on the infusions right away. Basically, you sit there for an hour with the drug going into your vein, directly into your vein, and then they monitor you for an hour. And so you have to sit there for an hour after, which is always comfortable in the office and or at the hospital where I go. It's always comfortable. There's a Dunkin' Donuts in the hospital. When I go to the hospital, there's a Dunkin' Donuts in the lobby. So, I'll have a latte or something while I'm being infused and read the paper or watch TV, or I'm on my computer doing something. And I started feeling a lot better. There are times that I can actually go out and leave my walker at home. I'm not perfect or not walking, absolutely the way I used to, but I am doing 1,000 times better than I was the day that I walked into Dr. Ansalmi's office, which is my current neurologist. And I owe a lot of that to that wonderful nurse. I owe a lot of that to my significant other, and my life has been better for it. My children, even though they're small, they understand that mommy walks a little slower than everybody else, and they wait for me, and they understand mommy's walker, and they understand when we go to the supermarket that sometimes mommy has to use one of those things that you ride on. It has been a long, long journey. There were times where I was still driving at the time. This is before 2012. Actually, a little bit of 2012, I was still driving. But I'm afraid to drive now because I have a drop foot on the right side. So I don't know when I could be stepping on the gas or even the brake, and I can't. My whole right side might just decide we're not doing anything, and I ended up killing myself and everybody around me. So I just stay away from driving. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I have to safety first. But as I was saying, it was a journey. I mean, it was a time that, and I was just talking about this the other day with a friend of mine. I remember I went into ShopRite, and I think it was 2012, I believe, the beginning of 2012, I went into ShopRite, and I was online, and I'm paying for my groceries, and there was a older gentleman behind me, and then there was another gentleman behind him. And then, of course, the rest of the line. I'm paying for my groceries, and then all of a sudden, it felt like someone was tugging my torso down. So I'm like falling forward, and instead of anyone saying, do you need help or are you okay? I get the second guy. He was, a little twerp, and he's like yelling, and he's like, come on, get out of the way. And it got really heated, and there was a cop at the supermarket, and he finally came over and asked if I was okay. And this guy, he's just so angry because he has to get back to work. I guess he was buying his lunch or something. He had to get back to work, and it was like really disgusting. It was terrible. And I've seen people, like I would even say myself before I was diagnosed, I would see people wobbling. I'm like, oh my God, you're drunk in the middle of the day. And now it's like, I understand it. I totally understand it. Or you see people on those, the scooters at the supermarket, and you think that they're just lazy. And now it's like it all makes sense. And I always say you don't get it until you get it, or you have a family member that gets it. And it's hard. It's really rough. Um, my kids still get to do things with mommy. We go to the park. They know that just go over to the slide. Mommy's coming. It's gonna take a while, but mommy will be over there soon. Um, it's it's like I mean, it's not a death sentence, but it's a life changer. So right now I am taking the infusion, the Tysabri, and I take the Ampera. This is the walking pill, and this has worked wonders for me also. The only side effect of that is you risk having seizures. That's if you've had a history of having seizures and you don't take it correctly, exactly 12 hours apart. But other than that, I mean, I've been lucky that I don't have to take like a whole boatload of medications. It's just the infusion once a month and the Ampera every day. Um, and the reason for this fund is because I've taken my children to the park. I've gone to, the doctor. I mean, I've been, at the supermarket, at the mall, and I see people, and it's so heartbreaking seeing people, you know, they are, they'll, some people, I mean, these autoimmune diseases, like you can be living your life and then within like seconds, your whole life changes. So you can't go to work, you can't exercise, you can't get up and do the things that you need to do. And I mean, I understand you have home health aides and things like that, but it's like the financial part of it. And I know there are programs out there. Many of them, unfortunately, don't have the funding to help anyone. Many of them, they turn away certain people if you don't meet certain criteria. And there's it's terrible. I mean, it could be something I always say as simple as somebody needing an assistive device or anything. And I always say that you can't work, and I honestly don't know how anyone could by themselves live on what they receive from Social Security or disability. It just wouldn't cut it. Paying your rent and and your light bill and any other expenses you have, clothes, food, everything. And it's comes down to the point where you know it is because of your disability that you can't work. It's not like you're just lazy. But your your creditors, or your energy company or your landlord doesn't care. I mean, you can't pay your rent with I have MS, or I have lupus, or I have a disability, so I can't. It has to be done, and it just there isn't much help out there. There are some things out there to help people, but it isn't much. And I've been fortunate enough to find ways to maintain, myself and my family, my children, and I don't want to see anyone else suffering. That's just the kind of person I've always been. I mean, I was at the I was leaving the mall, it's a small like little shopping mart near my house last week, and there was a woman getting out of the car, and she was taking a really long time to get out of the car. And normally, like usually, like when you're young or something, you're like, oh my God, like come on. And when she finally got out of the car, I believe it was her husband helping her get out of the car. I'm standing there with my daughter. My daughter rides. I have the walker with the seat on it, so my daughter rides on it, and people think it's a stroller a lot of times. And she saw the walker, and she goes, "Hey, nice car you got there." And I laughed, and she's like, "I wish I could get one of those." And I'm like, "What do you mean you wish?" And she said, I can't afford it, and my medical coverage doesn't pay for it, doesn't cover it." And it was at that point where I said to myself, I really, really, really have to get this charity off the ground, because that's one of those times where I should have been able to just give her a card and tell her to, to call me, to reach out, and we help her. And those are the things that I want to do. And that is my story. I know it was a lot. It was just basically the whole MS thing, just over a span of 3 years, but it's a mouthful. It's a lot. It's a lot has happened. A lot is still happening. I still struggle. Some days I get up and my legs decide, hey, we don't want to work today. Or I could be in the middle of the street and I'm walking finally a little bit, and my right foot just decides, hey, we're not lifting up. And I was told during my MRIs before I started Chisabri, I was told that I had 5 black holes in my brain. I had a lot of lesions and I had 5 black holes. So that in itself is scary. And you know, since I've been on to Sabri, I'm happy to let you know that my lesions are shrinking. And I guess that's why I'm walking better. I'm JC positive, which is a virus that makes you more susceptible to getting the PML. I'm positive, but my titer is very low and is getting lower and lower every time I get tested. So, shrinking lesions, lower titer for JC virus, walking better. Um, and this is not bragging, this is just, telling you that it does get better. It can get better, and it will get better for you. It will get better for all of us. And like I said, I'm not just here to help people with, with MS, people with lupus, fibromyalgia, Graves' disease, any kind of debilitating monster that, may be plaguing you right now, and you need help. And that's what I want to do. And I'm hoping, to get many many corporations on board, to help out, and just, everyday people. So that's my hope, and I hope that you help me keep hope alive, help me spread the word about the charity. um I am I'm actually looking for, once again, you sending me your letters, or call me, or or inbox me, or anything at any given time. I would love to talk to you. If you don't mind sharing, if you don't mind me reading your letters here on YouTube, we can talk. We can FaceTime, we can Skype, whatever you want. I'm here for you guys. I hope that you guys are here for me too and here for each other. And I just hope that we can just grow and we can build together. And any information that I have, I'll always put it out there on the page. I may not do videos as often as I'd like to, because I don't have like the best camera. I'm working off my MacBook, whatever. But I'm gonna get a better camera, get a whole setup. I'm gonna get some of my friends involved, my friends that are going through struggles with autoimmune diseases, and hopefully you'll see them here on camera. If you don't see them on camera right here with me, they'll be on Skype with me or FaceTime with me, and you guys can watch it and you can talk to them too and see them too. Any links that I have that I feel like will help you guys, I will always post it. I will always read your comments. This is just a place for, like I said in the other videos, a place for venting, place for feeling secure and feeling wanted and not feeling like a burden, because you're not. You're not a burden. You have a story and you're still here. So you are a walking testimony, and I would love to hear it, and I'm sure everybody else would love to hear it. So reach out to me anytime you can. I would love to hear from you, and it's been wonderful. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for staying with it. I know it was a lot. It was a lot of going back and forth, and I know some of you have like similar experiences. And once again, thank you guys. Help me, please keep up the fight for the charity. And once again, we know there are a lot of foundations and funds and charities out there to help find a cure for all these diseases. This charity is different in that this is helping your quality of life, helping you maintain while you're in the fight. And that's why the channel is called Donnie Fights. My name is Sadani. Everybody calls me Donnie. It's much easier. And Donnie is fighting with you and for you. And I hope that you guys will fight with and for me as well. Take care.